But all right, let's go to the point of tonight's episode. We have 6 college football what ifs, 2 from each person. We'll start off with Jake. Jake will be up first, leading off the college football what ifs. Jake, let me ask you this, Jake. What if Cam Newton never got kicked out of Florida?
Yeah, what if that happened? Would we still regard Tim Tebow as legendary of a college football star as we think he is? So Tim Tebow, for those who don't know, Cam Newton got, kicked out of Florida for, what was it, stealing a laptop?
Yeah.
I mean, it's on every 30 for 30 that you can go watch and find. But what I really didn't understand until I've listened to some other things is that, like, apparently Tebow wasn't as highly regarded as Cam Newton. Like, Cam Newton, if anybody's watched him, he's one of the most prolific athletes to ever play the quarterback position. And I think a lot of people thought Cam Newton was better than Tebow, possibly even as a freshman, but you're not putting a freshman in that situation with the number one team in the country. There were people saying that, does Newton, do they see the writing on the wall? Does Tebow see the writing on the wall and he tries to enter the NFL draft early? There's another thing is, does Urban Meyer extend his career at Florida? He left in 2010. That was exactly at the time when Cam Newton won at Auburn. Does Cam Newton go down as a multinational champion and doesn't have to stay 1 year in bumfuck Texas playing
Blinn College?
Blinn College. Sorry for any of you Blinn College graduates out there. I think it would have changed the perception of Tim Tebow's career at Florida. And I think it would have changed the perception of Cam Newton. We already think Cam Newton is one of the greatest college football quarterbacks we've ever seen. And he played 1 year. 1 year. Imagine if the guy would have gotten 2, maybe even 3. And I think of it as Iowa State related. Does Gene Chizik just get absolutely axed after his second year at Auburn? Because there's no way he's winning 4 games without Cam Newton. So does he even take the Auburn job? That's another question. So it goes and affects other people outside of just the Florida program. And how long does Florida maintain its success into 2015? I don't know. Does this build into more recruiting for Urban? Does he still want to stick around? So,
yeah, I think a lot of this for me is like, I don't think maybe Florida just was not the cultural fit for him. And it obviously played out that way. But how much different is that Florida team with him at the helm than Tebow? Like, he's not that much better of a passer. He's probably a better runner because there's not really a better, like,
hot take. I think
that might be a little hot.
Have you ever watched Tim Tebow throw a ball? JP, don't be Bronco biased here, man.
Said Cam Newton threw the ball better.
You said, how does Cam Newton throw a much better ball than Tim Tebow?
I think how much better of a ball? Like
a lot better.
Okay. Either way, I said the right thing. But he is a better runner because we haven't seen a runner like that at the quarterback position. Like, the guy's just a different animal. Is Florida? It's hard for me to say that Florida's that much different, though, because there was so much talent there already. Maybe he's not the star as much.
But I'm not even just talking like 2008, 2009. Like, does it maintain the success? Does it prolong the success at Florida? You know what I mean? After it just kind of went downhill after Urban left.
Well,
he had.
Do you think he really doesn't have health issues if Cam Newton's quarterback? Like, it just doesn't.
Well, it didn't stop him from he got back into it at Ohio State.
Yeah.
When he saw a much better situation. I think he saw the writing on the wall, Florida, and he's like,
oh, he played the health card, is what you're saying. He played the health card.
I think the most fun part about this one is to look at what Auburn would have been without him, because that's Auburn's prime time within the last however long. I mean,
well, they had that Malzahn.
They played for a national title in 14.
Yeah, I'll say they had that Malzahn year in 2014, but
that was Nick Marshall.
Yep.
Yeah, but do they get those athletes recruited there if Cam Newton never appeared at Auburn? Like, what if they never had that stint beforehand to get the athletes that then had the year in 14? I mean, there's so many things that lead to a successful program maintaining success that it would change a lot. I mean, look at Florida. Look where they're at now. I mean, both of these teams, honestly, where they're at.
Auburn's on the up and up a little bit.
I think
I
the
agree.
entire decade of 2010 to 2019 would have looked different for Auburn. And I think we, even like young guys like us, still have recency bias of what we think Auburn can be as a program. Like, it's not just their success from the 80s or 90s. Like, no, this was a good team even just a couple of years ago. So, yeah, I agree.
They weren't a bad team when Bo Nix was there.
No, exactly. So,
yeah,
but that could,
we saw that
it
firsthand.
could trickle effect.
Yeah, he did light the world on fire that day in
He
Fayetteville.
did. He was a very good quarterback that day. All right, let's go to JP. You have our next one. JP, what if Iowa won the Big Ten championship in 2015? What if?
You guys told me to go a little more homerish, so I think I gave a Nebraska one, and Iowa one, and an Iowa State one. What if Iowa had won the Big Ten title in 15, though? This is still East and West, right? So there's your one West champion, right? They go to a college football playoff. They probably get pummeled the same way Michigan State did against that Alabama team, right?
Okay.
I'm not going to act like
I was thinking like you were going to say
I do
like somebody else runs for 700 yards?
The world.
No. I do think they were a better team than Michigan State, but I'm not saying that they're not going to lose by 20. But I think the West is looked at much differently. I think this last so that's probably like 6 years of Iowa football is also looked at differently. I think you look at a Big Ten champion Iowa team with a bad offense. Like, I don't think they come up as often. Maybe all that did was hurt them, right? Like you weren't as exposed to the level you need to be at on the offensive side of the ball. This was a good offensive team, by the way. This is CJ Beathard, Tavon Smith. Like, this was a good offensive team, but I think it's seen a little more so that needs to be a focal point if they win that game, go to a playoff, find out the hard way, right? Than the stuff we're in right now. It's also like that diffuses a lot of bullshit arguments rivals have. Like, if Iowa goes to a playoff and wins a Big Ten title, like that stops a lot of things. Like, if we're playing regional game, that stops a lot of anything anybody has to throw at.
So
them.
I can't. So you'd tell me to shut up if I told you we still have a New Year's Six bowl win, and you guys don't in the last 10 years. Is that what you're
you
telling
would still
me?
say that even if they went to a playoff.
Here we go.
I know, but you would.
New Six bowl.
But you would say we went to the playoff. That's what you guys would say. That'd be better argument.
Yeah, like,
that's a better argument.
It is, but I'm saying I think it changes the outlook of the West, and I think the West is looked at differently, and maybe gets a little more muscles rather than hurting itself in the last 5 years of that division.
And JP, it also erases a lot of the I don't want to say lingering again, but lingering thoughts from other fans about how weak that Iowa schedule was that year, because that's what everybody said during the season. And then they get exposed in the bowl game. But like, if they win this game, that argument goes out the window too. So
that you just all you are is another team that you went to the playoff and got shellacked, and you know what would happen? Nothing, because it wouldn't stand out any, because everybody got shellacked in the 14 playoff other than the last 2 years.
True,
it's a fact.
That's fair. That is a fact.
Look
all right, jump to mine. Mine's a little bit more recruiting based. Jake, I'm going to go to you on this one as well, a little bit. But what if Johnny Manziel never decommitted from Oregon? If you look at Johnny Manziel's list of schools that he picked from, Texas A&M was the only one he took an official visit to. Obviously, he goes there, has an unbelievable college career, maybe one of the best highlight films we've ever seen, wins the Heisman Trophy, basically keeps Kevin Sumlin around for probably longer than he would have been. Cliff Kingsbury at offensive coordinator, so he had all the tools. But what if he doesn't leave? What if he goes to Eugene and plays at Oregon? How about the career difference? How about does he ever have problems? Does he develop a drinking problem in college?
I could tell you, I hate him a lot more.
If he goes to Oregon?
Yeah. Then I'd have to watch all the 12 and 13-year-olds and all these kids running around with Oregon gear and Manziel gear. Come on, that sounds
I'll tell you what, looking back on his career and all that he did, I don't want to say accomplished because I don't even talk about his accomplishments, but off field, he fits at Oregon. Like, he's just that. I think he kind of fits.
You said, does he like not get in trouble and all that stuff? I just don't. He just had that personality to where he would have gotten himself into trouble wherever he was at with that success.
Oh, I don't know if he would have had the leeway though, because think about what are they called? The documentaries on Netflix, Untold. The Untold that came out, they talked to Kingsbury. He's like, oh yeah, I would know what was going on. I just told him, you better fucking play well today. And it's, dude, does he have that at Oregon? Is there really other coaches out there that's like Cliff Kingsbury? I wouldn't say so. I think he's kind of each his own, just go out there and ball and do whatever you want. But dude, if he has different mentorship, different coaches, I don't know if his life gets out of control the way it was,
I bet
or
it
if
does.
he.
He's a
You
lot
think
closer to
so?
Vegas.
What about all that oil money
Yeah,
that he
he's
picked
a-
up? What about all that
Yeah.
oil money that he picked up too?
You ever heard of
That ain't up
Nike?
there in Eugene.
You don't think? Yeah, I was gonna say
That's-
you don't.
I don't know
think-
if Phil Knight's. I don't know if
You
Phil
don't think
Knight's.
Phil
You're
Knight
telling
would
me.
make $1,000
You're telling
deals?
me Phil Knight's not throwing him a couple grand every once in a while, like sending a lady to his room on a random Wednesday night. Come on, that old
I
guy
think
would
the
have done
ladies
it.
would be
He'd have
there
done
anyway. The Heisman Trophy. Jake, I'll go to you on this. One of those schools listed was Iowa State. What if he goes to Iowa State? How different is that your program now to have a Heisman Trophy winner? And think about what he could have done to teams in the Big 12.
You think he
Yeah,
wins
just-
a Heisman
just-
Trophy at Iowa State?
Dude, I don't
Yeah,
know how he
no.
wouldn't.
No.
Times his
no.
stats by 2.
He would have gotten
no
destroyed
talent
as a
around
little
him.
Yeah, he would have gotten destroyed as a little body. But add that to the list of
Oh,
Heisman Trophy winners that were second fiddle to Iowa State, a la Barry Sanders. It was down to Oklahoma State and Iowa State, and Mr. Joe Burrow. It was down to Ohio
no.
State.
You don't get to claim Joe Burrow. That's a Nebraska thing, man.
Where was he
That's a
born?
Nebraska
Where was he
thing.
born? Was he born in Ames?
He doesn't
Oh yeah,
give
that's
a
right.
shit. There's
He
a
was born
direct
in
quote
Ames.
there. There's a direct quote out
Oh,
there. I
okay.
wanted to go to Nebraska. They never called. That's what he said. That's a Nebraska claim.
He wanted to go there, but they didn't call. But Iowa State actually called and offered him,
And
so that
so
was
he
a
didn't
real
wanna go there.
possibility.
But he didn't want to go there. He picked the other school. Nebraska never called. Joe Burrow would have been a Husker. He should have been. But we have a lot of those. But fair enough, Jake. Fair enough. All right, that was a fun one. I
Joe
think there's
Burrow's
so
not
many
Joe Burrow if he
differences.
goes to Nebraska either. If we're playing that game,
Probably not. I mean, he's not throwing to Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase.
exactly.
So I think
He's not
that's
throwing to
exactly-
anybody like that.
Yeah.
Like he could have gone anywhere else in the country. He's not the same guy because, I mean, just the circumstances of his story. And
He would have
what
had
he was doing.
Stanley Morgan Jr., and that is no
that's what
way
I'm
to
saying.
compare to Justin Jefferson, but he was pretty good. But fair enough. All right, going to the next one. Jake, what if Jim Harbaugh took the job at Iowa State?
That's great.
What it?
That's great photoshopping skills.
Yeah,
by
it is.
you,
Look
by
at
the
the
way. I
Jack Trice.
love the Jack Trice logo
Yeah.
on Jim.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, get that guy. Get that guy in Ames. Yeah, I wanted to do one Iowa State related. This one's not as serious. Basically, when Harbaugh took his first coaching gig at San Diego in 2007, obviously he was looking to take the jump to FBS football, and he was in the interview room. There were 2 other names, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but obviously Gene Chizik gets a job at Iowa State in 2007. Harbaugh was one, and there was another guy that's obviously a well-known name, but I've done terrible research, and I can't provide that for you guys. But had they not offered Chizik the job and they offer Harbaugh, how does that look? Harbaugh took over Stanford in 2007, who was a bad football team, and it still applies today. It's really hard to recruit there, but he found ways to succeed. He built Stanford into a national championship contender in his last season at 2010. He definitely, had he been at Iowa State, he was looking to take that next jump. He has been his whole career. So one question is, how long does he stay? The second question is how high could he have built the pinnacle at Iowa State? If he could win 12 games at Stanford, could he have at least won 10 games in the old Big 12? This was back when they were both divisions. Iowa State went 2-10 Chizik's year and lost every single Big 12 game.
It's a damn
I would
good
just-
Iowa State program, baby. Here we go.
Yeah, this is back in the prime. This is the prime of Iowa State days. This
There's
is
35
really when we
people
were
in
getting
Jack
into
Trice
it.
that day.
But on top of that, Chizik recruited decently well after he left after his 2 years. That was really the success on why Paul Rhodes was able to win 6 or 7 games when he first stepped in 2009 and 2010. So if Chizik could recruit at Iowa State at a decent level, imagine what Harbaugh would have done had he had enough success to where Paul Rhodes doesn't get the job, but somebody else does. Does that change the trajectory of Matt Campbell coming to town? So on and so forth. You play the game.
I
Yeah.
think, JP, you can maybe back me up on this, but maybe all this GOAT talk is because he thinks that Jim Harbaugh should have ended up at Iowa State. All this, Jim Harbaugh could be
That's
in the
not-
greatest coach of all time.
We-
talk.
He's
I
claiming
think
him.
it's a
That
little
is-
homerism that I didn't know.
That
about.
is an off-season topic, and I still haven't gotten over that. I'm ready to go to bat for Jimbo.
All right, we might have to do that, but all right, let's go to the next one. We're already almost at the hour mark. Thanks for staying around. Let's go to JP. What if the Big Ten never left the legends versus leaders look? This is a good one because this would change everything.
it does change a lot. Like you probably don't have the bitchiness of the Big Ten East to the Big Ten West, right? Like you have Michigan, you have Michigan State on that side. Michigan State plays for a conference title in this format a couple years ago, right? Michigan plays Ohio State for a conference title the last couple years. Does Northwestern ever? Technically, does Iowa or Northwestern really have that many shots at it? Like you've seen Iowa's years where they've gone. There's probably 2 of those years that, or one for sure that they go, one maybe, and one for sure no, they do not go. Northwestern, they never get there. Purdue, never an appearance. Wisconsin, maybe you have to beat Ohio
Probably
State to
not.
get there. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably not. You have to beat Penn State and Ohio State to get there. Like, do you think the Big Ten's looked at as a better conference just because their conference title games look a little bit different?
I mean, you
I'm
still would
just
have
saying.
the top heaviness of Michigan and Ohio State, but
Yep.
like think of
You
all
got your
the
2 heavyweights in each side.
Yeah.
You have your very clear
Or-
3 and 4, and then the rest.
How fast do they try to dismiss it because Michigan and Ohio State are playing in the Big Ten title?
I mean, it was a different
Back-to-back
college
weeks.
football. Yeah, it was a
And
different
they're
college
just like,
football.
we can't do this. We got to disband it. We're sick of seeing these 2 teams play back-to-back weeks. That's another thing. But I think this is a great example.
I think this is like you could do this however you wanted to. Obviously, there's a little geography into it, not a ton, but it looks interesting. Like Rutgers, Maryland come in, you split those 2.
Yep, and it
'cause
still
you
wouldn't
can't
change
put 'em in
anything.
the same one. Yeah, like that's the only reason they probably changed, other than like the names were fucking awful.
Still
But-
makes more sense than the modern day Big 12.
That's fair.
Geography
That's all
wise as
fair.
a conference.
It does, but I don't know. I kind of think that a lot of the slack that the Big Ten has gotten in the Big Ten West, that tells these Big Ten West teams that they can't fall into this brand of football the last 3 or 4 years that they have, where they just suck and they just want to win the division. That's all that matters. Like that's gone now. You have to beat the big boys right now. And I think the Big Ten West keeps out of a funk. I think Nebraska stays out of a funk that they were in. I think Michigan State stays out of the big one with D'Antoni that they were in. I don't think Iowa runs into the same issues that they've been running into. I think Northwestern doesn't have the success. Purdue doesn't have the success. I just think it looks a lot different. I think it's a conference that you'd look at now with them and being the Big Ten and the SEC being the 2 big boys. Maybe they're flexing their muscles a little bigger than the SEC. I'm just saying, who knows?
Dude, think about the play style differences of the split. Like Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, Purdue, Northwestern, Minnesota, ground and pound football. And then look at the East, who's had all the success. Everybody thinks they're so much better. And it's more air-based teams. Ohio State, Michigan State, Indiana, even Purdue. I guess Purdue could fall in the West too and be more of a run-heavy team. But the West is all running. I mean, we're talking about Brett Bielema, Kirk Ferentz, now Matt Rule, who's the same way. PJ Fleck, who hands the ball off 30 times a game. I mean,
Yep.
This is completely different. It changes the entire landscape of the conference to even move 1 or 2 teams and create a better conference championship game with more hype. Can think about it, what it would do with a 14-team playoff. This is a great one. This is when I was making this, honestly, looking at the legends and leaders, I was like, holy crap. I don't even remember what the conference was like, but imagine it now with the top heaviness.
I started a new dynasty on NCAA 13 like a while ago, and I just kept the legends and leaders. Usually I change it to East West and do the whole thing. I was just like, let's leave it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, it's a good idea. But all right, go to the last one, and it's mine. Another recruiting one. Jake, I had to throw one at myself too. There's 5 teams listed that Lamar Jackson was interested in. Nebraska's on that list. And one thing that stood out to me, one, look at that picture of Lamar Jackson in a UCF jersey. It's hilarious. But imagine what he would have done at that program with that offense and what they've been recently. But look at the 4 teams outside of Louisville that he's at. If that doesn't tell you what a meaningful player at a school does for it and moving forward, what will? I mean, you have a struggling Miami, middle of the pack, going to be better now, UCF team, struggling Nebraska, and a new coach, struggling Mississippi State, and then Louisville, who plays in the ACC title this year. So if Lamar Jackson goes to any of these 4 schools, you have to think they're in a better spot than they are now.
Yeah.
I mean, also a Heisman Trophy winner. Another one. This is another
He
scenario.
should have won 2. I'll go to my grave saying that. Should have won 2.
Should have. I think they just wanted to avoid his speech after.
They got tired of his name. They're like, he's doing it again with better numbers. He won last year. Give it to somebody else.
Oh,
And it's another huge recruiting piece, especially for these 4 schools. Maybe not Miami and Nebraska. They recruit pretty easily, but UCF and Mississippi State, we have an
Absolutely.
NFL MVP winner. That's what we're talking about. So think of him in any of these 4 spots. It's intriguing and crazy, and it's another quarterback that Nebraska's name's listed on that could have, I don't know, changed the face. But hopefully we got ours now. But that's a fun one. Jake.
Yeah, something relevant that we can move off of your Lamar and Johnny Manziel. What if? What if the Heisman committee gives Reggie Bush his Heisman back? Also pretty relevant in college football news.
I think Paul's restored to the world and everybody's happy again.
How about Johnny Manziel? I mean, Johnny Manziel, he's boycotting the Heisman. He's not showing up.
Does that?
Oh no, Johnny Manziel's not showing up. What are we going to do?
I was gonna say, does that really move?
Probably
does that move the needle?
You're a Manziel hater, JP.
I'm not. I just I think he's incredible. He's incredible for what he did for the sport of college football during that time. I think Lamar's better. I thought Kyler Murray was I'm just saying, I thought there were much better quarterbacks in the recent years than Manziel.
You're like, what does Manziel do? Come on, guys, we're leaving. And Barry Sanders and Andre Ware are like, who the fuck is this kid?
Who's the kid with the crazy haircut, tattoos, and cracked out?
Yeah, you should have used a little bit more slurred speech of him saying, "Come on, guys." But he does have an all-time quote too. I don't have a drinking problem. They have a problem with me drinking. I mean, come on, that's classic Johnny Manziel. He's the king. He's the king, and all-time.
I say that in the mirror before I go out on Saturdays.
Yeah. That's a good move. All right. That was fun. There's a lot of college football what ifs out there. A few good ones that we didn't go into, but I wanted to mention is like, what if JT Barrett doesn't get the first down in the game in 2017? The one where he got turned?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think so either. He didn't. But what if that? Where do those programs go? Does Michigan start then?
Will they ever go for a national title?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But Jabril Peppers, who probably deserved to play for a national title.
Yeah.